There is no greater indictment, I think, of our understanding of truth and law and justice and the way society is supposed to work than the modern elite university commencement addresses. In the 18th century and 19th century, into the early 20th century, the top universities, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, their commencement ceremonies would involve graduates making arguments and giving speeches in Latin, Greek, Hebrew. They would have disputations. They would have extemporary discourses on broad questions of metaphysics, on the nature of the soul, on the nature of the human person, on the nature of the good. Now, the commencement ceremonies at all of these schools, up to and including Harvard, involve Hollywood stars and comedians and entertainers giving glib speeches about nothing. Enter, into this milieu, Tom Hanks at Harvard over the weekend.
We are all in a cage match, mixed martial arts battle royale with agents of hubris, apathy, intolerance, and braying incompetence, the malevolent equals to Imperial stormtroopers Lex Luthor and Loki. And we could all use a superhero right now. The language of telling the truth. It is in the vision quest for truth that we look to you newly incorporated members of the Justice League of Avengers to come to the rescue. For the truth to some is no longer empirical, it's no longer based on data, nor common sense, nor even common decency. Telling the truth is no longer the benchmark for public service. It's no longer the salve to our fears or the guide to our actions. Truth is now considered malleable by opinion and by zero-sum endgames. But the truth is sacred, unalterable, chiseled into the stone of the foundation of our republic.
This is a guy who thinks men can be women. This is a guy who thinks that babies aren't babies when mommies wish that they weren't babies. This guy lecturing us about the sanctity of the truth, scolding us for having people in our society who think the truth can be malleable. This is the guy who, in his practical views in society, does not acknowledge truth whatsoever. And he doesn't even know that. I am quite confident Tom Hanks is not in the least conscious of the contradiction between what he's saying at Harvard and how he behaves in the world. Part of the reason I'm confident that he's not aware of this is that he's giving a commencement address at Harvard, and the most soaring rhetoric that he can muster is about superhero movies. He doesn't draw on literary figures, allegories that have existed in our culture for millennia, deep philosophical principles. He's at Harvard. Harvard's supposed to be a good school. The deepest wells of wisdom that he can find are Marvel movies. That's probably true for many of the graduates in that audience too. Probably true for many of the professors in that audience too. That's Harvard. That's supposed to be one of the top schools. How on earth are we supposed to have a serious society grounded in truth if these are our elites? I'm sympathetic to Tom Hanks's, I think, sincere longing for a society grounded on truth and justice. He just doesn't know a damn thing about any of those things. And unfortunately, neither do any of the other members of our ruling class, which is why we need a new elite. And the new elite ought to be drawn according to the desires of the common people much more than from the current elite. Because we're in this weird place today where the common people, the hoi polloi, the unwashed masses, they get things a lot more than the current elite do. Target and Anheuser-Busch and all the rest of them who want to trans the 3-month-olds, they've lost the plot. And the common unwashed people who don't have fancy degrees from Harvard generally, at the very least, they know you shouldn't trans the kids. At the very least, they know generally that babies are babies. That's where the support for a new elite is going to have to come from. Right now, go to puretalk.com/Knowles. Do you remember the last time you got a free phone? Started out feeling great, right? And then came the hefty activation fees, the 4-line requirements, and of course that binding contract. Pure Talk is giving you a free 5G Samsung Galaxy phone without the feeling that you've been duped. When you switch to Pure Talk's unlimited talk and text data plan that comes with a mobile hotspot, you will get a 5G Samsung Galaxy for free. That's right, unlimited everything at a fraction of the price of Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile. Here's another thing. You'll be on America's most dependable 5G network. How do I know? Because I am a customer. Make the switch to Pure Talk, the cell phone wireless company that I'm proud to stand behind because 1, they have a great service, and 2, they're proud to stand behind our mission at the Daily Wire. Pure Talk's US-based customer service team will help you make the switch in as little as 10 minutes, and you can even keep your phone number. Go to puretalk.com/Knowles, Knowles, for your free Samsung Galaxy when you sign up for unlimited talk, text, and unlimited data. puretalk.com/Knowles. Pure Talk, wireless for Americans, by Americans. Now, speaking of Harvard law people, speaking of Harvard undergrad too, I think. Chuck Schumer, I believe, is a double Harvard graduate, tells you everything you need to know. Chuck Schumer is very, very upset that the MAGA Supreme Court is attacking the environment. The Democrat leader of the Senate Majority Leader says, quote, "This MAGA Supreme Court is continuing to erode our country's environmental laws. Make no mistake, this ruling will mean more polluted water and more destruction of wetlands. We'll keep fighting to protect our waters." This in response to a Supreme Court decision on the EPA's authority in regulating certain properties. And Schumer's furious at the MAGA Supreme Court. Now, the Supreme Court right now is 5-4 or 6-3, conservative versus liberal. Depends on how you classify Chief Justice Roberts, who is a big squish. And he often sides with the libs, but he sometimes sides with the conservatives. So however you cut it, it's a majority conservative court. But this decision on the EPA, on the regulation of these wetlands, it was a unanimous decision. All of the court's liberals backed the decision here to say the EPA does not have jurisdiction to regulate these particular wetlands. Does Chuck Schumer not know that? Harvard law graduate, he should probably know that. Senate Majority Leader, he should probably know that. Or is he just lying? Does he just feel that he has to be dishonest? He has no reason to be honest here, and he's just going to lie, truth be damned. Probably the latter. Well, that's not going to instill a lot of confidence in our systems and institutions of government, right? It's always Chuck Schumer who's preening and whining, "The January 6th people, they're undermining our belief in our sacred elections." This was the same Chuck Schumer who stood outside of the Supreme Court and said, "We're coming for you, Justice Kavanaugh. We're coming for you, Justice Gorsuch." That was, of course, before a liberal tried to assassinate Justice Kavanaugh at his home. That was before the conservative justices had to leave their homes and flee because a liberal leaked a Supreme Court decision in Dobbs to try to gin up an attack against the conservatives. That was before all of that. But now, this is the same Chuck Schumer who lies about what the Supreme Court did. But now they preen and they whine and they say, "Oh no, the terrible threat to our institutions of government." They don't care about this stuff. And so injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. When these people lie and they misrepresent and they exaggerate, they're following their own lights in that they don't really believe in any background principles of truth and justice. But that is going to compromise our stable society everywhere else. Boy, what a great clip that was. Make sure you ring the bell and subscribe to the Michael Knowles YouTube channel. We'll see you next time.